So Walter engines and wet starts or rich starts. There were a bunch of questions after episode 1 of this series about the big fireball during the ground run engine start. So I wanted to give a little bit more context on that. Fundamentally what it comes down to is there's the Walter is different than a PT6 or a Garrett. So the PT6 and the Garrett, they inject fuel right at the spark ignition point. Like the PT6, the Walter's 2 igniters are near the fuel injectors. The difference is that the Walter injects fuel all the way around the combustion chamber, and as a result, there are lots of areas where fuel is being introduced, but there's no spark there to ignite them. Basically what happens is there's a lot of fuel in the system, and for whatever reason it's not lighting off, and when it finally lights off, there's wet fuel everywhere, and you get a big fireball out the exhaust. This is not a nominal start, but the most important thing I can say is this is not a dangerous start. It doesn't break anything. If you were to see fireballs or something like that on a PT6, you'd be concerned. With a Walter, it's mostly just unsettling for people on the ground, and for that reason there's a procedure to prevent it. The TSLM manual calls it at 10 seconds. You get different numbers from different people, but the way Quentin described it, which I think is my favorite, is if you see fuel vapor coming out of the exhaust pipes on either side of the cowling, then you just go ahead and initiate the start abort, which is just to pull the condition lever back to cut off. And all that does is stop fuel from going into the engine and prevents the fireball from happening. Again, if you don't do that, doesn't hurt anything, but if you do that, now you have the opposite problem where you have a really wet engine that needs to be cleared. So that's when we do what's called a dry motor, where with the condition lever in the off position, we initiate a start, which blows a bunch of air through the engine because the engine's trying to start, but without any fuel, all it does is just blow that gas out, and then you do a third start with the condition lever in the normal position to get a start. The most important thing here is that it doesn't hurt anything. The second most important thing, I think hopefully you're picking up on now, is that there are just a lot of procedures associated with this engine that aren't necessarily all documented in a single place. So you have the Walter manual. Since this engine has the VR Avionics TSLM system installed, there's that manual. There's the owner's operating manual, and then there's the manual that we generated in the past, along with all the sort of tips and tricks that are out there on the internet. So again, the most important part of this part of the process, that time when I have face-to-face with Quentin and his team, is to try to cut through sort of the mess and figure out what is actually important, what will actually damage the engine, and what's a responsible way to operate the airplane going downstream. We have plenty of information about how to operate the engine, but the question is, what is the best procedure right now, if only to protect ourselves in the event that should the engine blow up, we have a good path back to why we were doing what we were doing when we did it, that well, in this case would have resulted in damaging the engine, but again, that's just off nominal. That's a non-ideal case.